Sophia's hands froze on the doorknob when she heard Gisella's voice echo through the hallway. That little freak needs to learn his place, her heart hammered against her ribs. Through the crack in the door, she watched Gisella grab 5-year-old Romeo's arm roughly, her perfectly manicured nails digging into his small wrist. The boy didn't cry, he never did, but his eyes went wide with that familiar terror that made Sophia's blood boil. "Stop it." The words left Sophia's mouth before she could stop them. She burst through the door, positioning herself between Gisella and the trembling child. "He's just a boy." Gisella's cold smile could have frozen hell itself. "Just a boy. That autistic brat is nothing but a burden to Ricardo." She stepped closer, her designer heels clicking against the marble floor like a countdown. But then again, what would a maid know about what's best for this family? Sophia felt Romeo's small hand clutch the back of her uniform. She should have stayed quiet, should have remembered her place. But watching this woman torment an innocent child while Ricardo sat in his office, supposedly blind and unaware, ignited something fierce inside her. "I know more than you think," Sophia heard herself say. "I know about your meetings with the Francesco family. I know about the offshore accounts. I know you're planning to take everything from him." The color drained from Gisella's face, then returned in a furious red. "You know nothing, you insignificant." "I know everything." Sophia's voice shook, but she didn't back down. "And I'm going to tell him." What Sophia didn't know was that Ricardo Enzo could see perfectly, and he had been watching this entire exchange from the security feed in his office, his knuckles white as they gripped the armrests of his chair. If you want to discover how this dangerous game began and what happened after Sophia uncovered the truth, subscribe to the channel and leave in the comments where you're watching from. Each view helps bring more stories like this one. Now, let's go back to where it all started. 3 months earlier, Sophia Thompson stood outside the towering glass mansion in the Hollywood Hills, her worn sneakers feeling out of place on the pristine driveway. The employment agency had called her that morning with an urgent position, a live-in maid and caretaker for the 5-year-old son of one of Los Angeles's most powerful men. The pay was triple what she made working her 2 other jobs combined. She needed it desperately. Her mother's medical bills were drowning her. An eviction notice on their apartment door gave her 30 days to come up with 3 months' rent. Sophia had scrubbed floors, waited tables, and done everything legal she could think of to keep them afloat. This job was an answer to prayers she'd been too tired to say. The door opened before she could knock. A man in an expensive suit stood there, his dark eyes hidden behind designer sunglasses despite being indoors. Even standing still, he radiated the kind of power that made people instinctively step back. Sophia recognized him from the news. Ricardo Enzo, the businessman everyone whispered, was really the head of the most powerful crime family on the West Coast. "Mr. Enzo," she managed, her voice steadier than she felt. "I'm Sophia Thompson from the agency." He didn't respond immediately, his head tilted slightly, as if listening rather than looking. Then she noticed the white cane in his hand, the way his gaze didn't quite focus on her face. "Come in, Miss Thompson." His voice was deep, accented with Italian that made her name sound like music. "My assistant will show you to Romeo's room. The boy needs someone patient, someone kind. The last 3 caregivers quit within a week." Sophia's heart clenched. She'd worked with special needs children before, at the community center. "I won't quit, Mr. Enzo. I promise." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or suspicion. "We'll see." The assistant, a stern woman named Naomi, led Sophia through a mansion that looked more like a museum. Everything was white marble and gold fixtures, so clean it seemed like no one actually lived there. Naomi's warnings came in rapid-fire Spanish accented English. "The boy doesn't speak much. He has his routines. Don't disrupt them. Mr. Enzo cannot see, so you must keep everything exactly where it belongs. And Miss Stewart, Mr. Enzo's fiancée, she is not to be disturbed for anything concerning the child. Understand?" Sophia nodded, though her instincts were already prickling. Something felt wrong about that last rule. Romeo's room was the only space that looked lived in. Toys were organized by color and size on shelves. A small boy sat on the floor, rocking slightly, his attention fixed on a toy car he was rolling back and forth with precise movements. His dark hair fell over his eyes, and he didn't look up when they entered. Romeo, Naomi said sharply. This is Sophia. She will be taking care of you now. The boy's rocking increased slightly, but he still didn't look up. Naomi sighed with obvious frustration and left. Sophia waited until the door closed, then slowly lowered herself to the floor, keeping a respectful distance from Romeo. She didn't speak, didn't reach for him, just sat there watching the pattern of his movements. After 5 minutes, she picked up an identical toy car from the shelf and began rolling it parallel to his, matching his rhythm exactly. Romeo's rocking slowed. His eyes flicked toward her car, then away, then back again. Sophia kept the rhythm steady, patient, waiting. Finally, his small hand pushed his car slightly closer to hers. It was the smallest gesture, but Sophia's eyes burned with tears she wouldn't let fall. Hi, Romeo, she whispered. I think we're going to be good friends. What she didn't see was Ricardo standing in the hallway, his head tilted toward the crack in the door, listening to the gentle sound of toy cars rolling across the floor, and his son's breathing gradually calming. If you're enjoying this story and want to see what happens next, please subscribe to our channel and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Your support means everything to us as we continue bringing these stories to life. For the first time in 3 months, Romeo wasn't crying. The next 2 weeks established a routine. Sophia woke before dawn, prepared Romeo's breakfast exactly how he liked it. Toast cut into triangles, never squares, with the crusts removed. She learned his signals, the way his hand would flap when he was excited, how he needed warning before transitions, the specific pressure he liked when he needed a calming hug. Ricardo observed everything from behind his sunglasses. He stumbled occasionally, keeping up the pretense of blindness, letting his cane tap against furniture. But Sophia noticed things others might have missed. The way his head always turned toward Romeo when the boy entered a room, how he never actually bumped into anything important, only things that wouldn't cause real injury, the fact that he knew exactly where everything was, always. She said nothing. It wasn't her business why a powerful man would pretend to be blind. She had enough to worry about keeping her job and taking care of Romeo. But she noticed Gisela Stewart, too. The woman was stunning, tall, blonde, with the kind of beauty that came from expensive procedures and designer clothes. She swept through the mansion like she owned it, which she technically would once she married Ricardo in 6 weeks. But she barely looked at Romeo, and when she did, Sophia saw something cold in her eyes that made her skin crawl. Why does he do that? Gisela asked one afternoon, her voice dripping with disgust as Romeo rocked in his chair during lunch. It's so abnormal. Sophia bit her tongue hard enough to taste blood. He's self-soothing. It helps him process. I didn't ask for a psychology lesson from the help. Gisela's smile was sharp. Maybe he should eat in his room. It's disturbing to watch. No. The word came out before Sophia could stop it. She saw Ricardo's hand tighten on his fork. I'm sorry, Miss Stewart, but Mr. Enzo specifically asked that Romeo eat with the family. It's important for his development. Gisela's eyes narrowed dangerously. We'll see what Ricardo says about that. She turned to him, her voice turning honey-sweet. Darling, don't you think it would be better if the boy ate separately, just until he learns better table manners? Ricardo's face was unreadable behind his dark glasses. Romeo stays. This is his home. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. Gisela's smile never wavered, but Sophia saw her manicured nails dig into her napkin. Of course, darling, whatever you think is best. But after Ricardo left the table, Gisela leaned close to Sophia, her perfume cloying and heavy. You're overstepping, maid. Remember your place, or I'll make sure you lose it. That night, Sophia couldn't sleep. She lay in her small room off the kitchen, listening to the sounds of the mansion settling. Around midnight, she heard voices muffled coming from Gisela's wing. Sophia told herself it was none of her business, told herself to stay in bed, but something made her slip into the hallway. Gisela's door was cracked open and light spilled into the corridor. Sophia crept closer, her heart hammering. Through the gap, she could see Gisela on her phone pacing. Yes, I'm sure. No, he suspects nothing. The blind act is perfect. He's completely vulnerable.
6 weeks, Dante.
In 6 weeks, I'll have legal access to everything. Then we move. The Francesco family is already in position. Yes, yes, half of everything. That's what we agreed. Sophia's blood turned to ice. She backed away slowly, carefully, but her foot caught on the edge of a rug. The sound was barely audible, but Gisella's head snapped toward the door.
Sophia ran.
Sophia made it back to her room, her heart threatening to burst from her chest. She locked the door with shaking hands and pressed her back against it, mind racing. Gisela was planning something that involved the Francesco family. Everyone in Los Angeles knew they were the Enzo family's biggest rivals, and she was going to betray Ricardo right after the wedding. She should tell him.
But how?
He thought he was blind. If she revealed she'd been spying, no, not spying, just accidentally overhearing, would he believe her? Would Gisela convince him she was lying, trying to sabotage their relationship? And more importantly, if Gisela realized Sophia knew, what would she do to silence her?
Sleep didn't come that night.
When dawn broke, Sophia dragged herself from bed and went through Romeo's morning routine on autopilot. The little boy picked up on her tension immediately, his rocking becoming more pronounced, his hands flapping with agitation. "I'm sorry, sweetheart," Sophia whispered, forcing herself to calm down.
I'm okay.
"We're okay." But they weren't okay. Over the next week, Sophia noticed Gisela watching her with cold calculation. Small things started going wrong. Romeo's favorite foods mysteriously disappeared from the pantry. His weighted blanket vanished. His carefully organized toys were rearranged, sending him into meltdowns that took hours to calm. And every time Gisela was there with that cruel smile, suggesting to Ricardo that perhaps Sophia wasn't as competent as they'd thought. Maybe we need someone with more experience. Gisela purred one afternoon after Romeo had a particularly bad episode. Someone who can actually control the boy. Ricardo's jaw tightened. Sophia is doing an excellent job. Romeo has improved significantly since she arrived. Has he? Gisela's laugh was like glass breaking. He's still the same strange little creature he's always been. Sophia saw red. He's not a creature. He's a beautiful, intelligent child who processes the world differently. And he's made incredible progress. No one asked you. Gisela's voice could have cut steel. Learn your place, Sophia. Or find yourself back in whatever slum you crawled from. Gisela. Ricardo's voice held warning. That's enough. But the damage was done. Sophia excused herself before she said something that would get her fired, taking Romeo to his room for their afternoon routine. The boy was trembling, his hands covering his ears. Sophia sat with him, rocking him gently, humming the song that always calmed him down. "I won't let her hurt you," she whispered into his hair. "I promise, Romeo. I won't let anyone hurt you." What Sophia didn't know was that Ricardo had followed them. He stood outside the door, his fist clenched around his unnecessary cane, listening to Sophia comfort his son. Behind his dark glasses, his eyes were open and burning with an emotion he hadn't felt in years. Someone was protecting his child, not for money or position, but because she genuinely cared. That evening, everything changed. Sophia was putting Romeo to bed when she heard raised voices from downstairs. She tucked the boy in, made sure his nightlight was on, and crept to the top of the stairs. Ricardo and Gisela were in the foyer, and Gisela's carefully constructed sweetness had shattered. "You're being ridiculous. Why do you care so much about what happens to that?" The slap echoed through the mansion. Sophia's hand flew to her mouth. Ricardo had moved faster than she'd ever seen him move. His hand connecting with Gisela's face before the word was fully out of her mouth. "Never," he said, his voice deadly quiet. "Use that word about my son again." Gisela stumbled back, her hand on her raining cheek, shock wearing with fury on her face. You hit me. You're blind. How did you?" She stopped, understanding dawned to her eyes, followed by cold calculation. "You can see it wasn't a question. This whole time you've been pretending, testing me." Her laugh was bitter. "Well, congratulations, Ricardo. You've been playing games while I've been planning our future. The only game is yours, Gisela. Ricardo pulled off his glasses, his dark eyes blazing with anger. Did you really think I wouldn't know about your meetings with Dante Francesco? That I wouldn't have you followed? Sophia's stomach dropped. He'd known all along. Everything she'd overheard. He'd already discovered through his own means. But if he knew, why hadn't he? You have nothing, Gisela hissed. No proof I've done anything wrong. And in 6 weeks, I'll be your wife with legal rights to half of everything you own. The prenup your lawyer thinks I signed, I had it altered. Your signatures are real minor forgeries. By the time you realize it, I'll have access to your accounts, your properties, your businesses. The Francesco family will help me drain every penny while you're distracted with your broken son. Ricardo's face went cold. Get out of my house. Make me. Gisela smiled. Go ahead, big bad mafia boss. Put your hands on me again. I'll have my lawyers here in an hour claiming abuse in California. That will get you arrested and me a restraining order. You won't be able to come near your own house or your precious son for months, long enough for me to do what I need to do. Sophia felt sick. Gisela had thought of everything. She'd backed Ricardo into a legal corner, using the law against him in a way his criminal empire couldn't fight. You underestimate me, Ricardo said quietly. No, a darling. And smile was victorious. You underestimated me. She started to turn away, then paused, her eyes traveling up the stairs to where Sophia stood frozen. And you, maid, if you value your pathetic life, you'll forget everything you've seen and heard tonight. Because if you try to testify against me, I'll make sure your mother loses her treatment. Yes, I know all about her cancer. Such a tragedy when hospitals have billing errors and insurance claims get mysteriously denied. Sophia felt like she'd been punched. Her mother. Gisela was threatening her mother. Leave her out of this, Sophia heard herself say, her voice stronger than she felt. This is between you and him. Nothing is between anyone and him anymore. Gisela's eyes glittered with malice.
I own him now.
And if you don't want to watch your mother die, you'll keep your mouth shut and your head down. She swept out of the mansion, leaving Sophia and Ricardo in heavy silence. Sophia slowly descended the stairs. Ricardo stood perfectly still, his hands clenched at his sides, every muscle in his body rigid with controlled fury. When his eyes met hers, she saw something that made her breath catch. Not the cold calculation of a mafia boss, but the desperate fear of a father who didn't know how to protect his child. How much did you hear? He asked quietly. Everything. Sophia's hands trembled. Mr. Enzo. Ricardo. His voice was rough. If we're going to fight this together, call me Ricardo. Together. The word hung in the air between them, heavy with meaning and danger, and something that felt dangerously like hope. She'll destroy you, Sophia whispered. And she'll hurt Romeo to do it.
I know.
Ricardo's jaw clenched. But I won't let her. Whatever it takes, Sophia, I won't let that woman anywhere near my son. Then we need a plan. Sophia took a deep breath, making a decision that would change everything because I'm not going anywhere. She can threaten me all she wants, but I won't abandon Romeo or you. Something shifted in Ricardo's expression. Surprise, followed by something that looked almost like wonder. You don't know what you're saying. The danger you're putting yourself in. I know exactly what I'm saying. Sophia met his eyes steadily. Romeo needs someone to protect him, and apparently so do you. For the first time since she'd met him, Ricardo smiled. It was a small smile, tired and weighted with too many burdens. But it was real. Then we'd better make sure we win, he said softly. Because Gisela Stewart doesn't know it yet, but she just made a fatal mistake. What's that? His eyes went cold again, but this time with calculation instead of fear. She threatened the two people I'd burned the world to protect. The next morning, Sophia found Ricardo in his office at dawn. He'd shed the pretense entirely. Now, no glasses, no cane, moving through his space with the predatory grace of a man who'd never been helpless for a second. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Italian, his tone making it clear he was giving orders that wouldn't be questioned. When he saw Sophia in the doorway, he ended the call. Romeo still sleeping. I set up the monitor. Sophia held up her phone, showing him the video feed of Romeo's room. I wanted to talk to you before he wakes up. Ricardo gestured to the chair across from his desk. Up close, without the shield of his pretended blindness, he was even more intimidating. His dark eyes were sharp, missing nothing. And the way he looked at her made Sophia feel like he could see straight through to her bones. You didn't sleep, he observed. Neither did you. Sophia met his gaze. I've been thinking about what Gisela said about the prenup, the forgeries, the legal trap. If she's been planning this for months, she'll have covered her tracks well.
She has.
Ricardo's fingers drummed against his desk. I had my people check. The document filed with the court has her forged signature. The original I signed is missing. Without it, I can't prove fraud. Then we need to make her show her hand. Sophia leaned forward. She's confident because she thinks she's won, but confident people make mistakes. What are you suggesting? Sophia took a breath, committing to the crazy plan that had formed during her sleepless night. We make her think you're more vulnerable than you are, that you're desperate enough to do something stupid. Ricardo's eyes narrowed. Like what? Like trying to pay her off. Make her think you're willing to give her money now to make her go away. If she's as greedy as I think she is, she'll want proof of how much you're offering. She'll bring documentation, maybe even the real prenup to show you what she's entitled to in the divorce, and then we document everything, record the conversation, get her to admit what she's done. Sophia's hands twisted in her lap. I know it's not much, but it's brilliant. Ricardo sat back, a slow smile spreading across his face. Gisela's ego is her weakness. She'll want to gloat to show me how thoroughly she's outmaneuvered me. And she'll do it because she doesn't see you as a threat. I'm just the maid, Sophia said quietly. You're not just anything. Ricardo's voice was intense. You're the only person who's chosen to stand with me and my son when you had every reason to run. That makes you dangerous, Sophia Thompson. More dangerous than Gisela realizes. Heat crept up Sophia's neck at the way he said her name. She stood quickly. I should go check on Romeo. Sophia. Ricardo's voice stopped her at the door. When she turned, his expression was serious. What Gisela said about your mother. I'm going to make sure her treatment continues regardless of what happens. You have my word. Tears burned Sophia's eyes. You don't have to. Yes, I do. He held her gaze. You're protecting my son. Let me protect your mother. Sophia nodded, not trusting her voice, and fled before she did something stupid like cry in front of a mafia boss. The next week was a delicate dance. Ricardo made it known through his network that he was looking for a way to resolve his engagement to Gisela without scandal. He let it slip that he was willing to pay significantly if she would walk away quietly. Gisela took the bait like a shark smelling blood. She called him 2 days later, her voice dripping with false sweetness. Darling, I heard you wanted to talk about our future. Perhaps we should discuss this privately. They arranged to meet at the mansion that evening. Ricardo had his security team install hidden cameras in his office. Sophia would hide in the adjacent room, ready to witness whatever happened. The hours before the meeting crawled by. Sophia tried to focus on Romeo, but the boy picked up on her tension. He clung to her more than usual, his small hands gripping her shirt. I'm okay, sweetie, she whispered, rocking him gently. Everything's going to be okay. She wasn't sure if she was trying to convince him or herself. When evening came, Naomi took over with Romeo, while Sophia slipped into the small office library that connected to Ricardo's main office. Through the crack in the door, she had a perfect view of his desk. Gisela arrived exactly on time, dressed in a white dress that probably cost more than Sophia, made in 6 months. She swept into the office like a queen, her smile sharp. Ricardo, darling, I'm so glad you've come to your senses. Sit down, Gisela. Ricardo's voice was cold. Let's discuss terms. Terms? Gisela laughed, settling into the chair across from him. Darling, I don't think you understand your position. I don't need to negotiate. In 4 weeks, I become your wife. Everything you own becomes half mine. The only question is whether you want to go through a messy divorce or make this easy. How much? Ricardo asked flatly. How much?
What?
How much to make you disappear? To sign a real prenup and walk away? Gisella's eyes gleamed. Well, since you're being so direct, 50 million in an offshore account untraceable, and I want it within a week before the wedding. That's a lot of money. That's a fraction of what you're worth. Gisela leaned forward. But I'm feeling generous. After all, you did give me such a lovely time pretending to be your devoted fiancée. The blind routine was a nice touch, by the way. I almost believed it myself for a while. When did you know?
Please.
Gisella's laugh was cruel. I knew within 2 weeks. You're good, Ricardo, but I'm better. I've been planning this since before we met. The Francesco family approached me a year ago with a proposition. Get close to you, marry you, and help them bring down the Enzo empire from the inside. The money I'll make from them is worth far more than 50 million. Sophia's hands clenched. Gisela was admitting everything, her arrogance making her careless. So, the whole relationship was a setup, Ricardo said, his voice emotionless. Every kiss, every I love you, every time I pretended to care about you, or that damaged son of yours. Gisela's mask slipped entirely, showing the viper beneath.
God, that boy is pathetic.
Do you know how hard it was to pretend I didn't want to shake him every time he made those weird noises or refused to look at me? He's defective, Ricardo. You should have put him in an institution years ago. Sophia saw Ricardo's hands clench on his desk. She held her breath, praying he wouldn't lose control and ruin everything. Romeo is perfect exactly as he is, Ricardo said, his voice dangerously quiet. Sure he is. Gisela rolled her eyes. Look, are we doing this deal or not? 50 million and I disappear. Otherwise, I marry you in 4 weeks and the Francescos and I take everything. Your choice. I want to see the prenup, the real one you had me sign. Gisela smiled triumphantly and pulled out a folder from her designer bag. I thought you might. Here it is. Your signature, my forgery. Once we're married, the court will enforce the version I filed, which gives me half of everything immediately upon marriage with no waiting period. You'll be bankrupt before you realize what hit you. She spread the documents on his desk like a winning poker hand. Ricardo leaned forward, studying them, and Sophia could see him mentally photographing every detail. So, what's it going to be? Gisela asked. 50 million now or lose billions later. There's a third option, Ricardo said quietly. Oh, and what's that? You go to prison for fraud, conspiracy, and extortion. Ricardo pressed a button on his desk, and the Francesco family loses their inside woman. Gisela's face went white as federal agents poured into the office, led by a man in a FBI jacket. What? No, you can't. Agent Morrison, thank you for coming. Ricardo stood, his voice formal. This is Gisela Stewart. You'll find she just confessed to conspiracy to commit fraud, extortion, and racketeering. The entire conversation was recorded. You bastard. Gisela lunged across the desk, but 2 agents grabbed her. This won't stick. I'll claim entrapment. You'll do nothing. Ricardo's voice cut through her hysteria. Because I also have recordings of your meetings with Dante Francesco, wire transfers from their accounts to yours, and testimony from 3 of your accomplices who were arrested an hour ago and have already made deals. Gisela's face crumpled as the reality hit her. Ricardo, please. We can work something out. I'll give you back everything. Agent Morrison, Ricardo said, turning away from her. She's all yours. As they led Gisela out in handcuffs, she screamed threats and curses that echoed through the mansion. Sophia stayed frozen in the library, her heart hammering, unable to believe it was really over. When the house was quiet again, Ricardo appeared in the library doorway. His face was drawn, exhausted, but there was relief in his eyes. It's done, he said quietly. Sophia launched herself at him without thinking, throwing her arms around him in a fierce hug. He stiffened for a moment. Then his arms came around her, pulling her close. Thank you, she whispered into his chest. Thank you for protecting him. We protected him, Ricardo corrected, his voice rough.
Together.
They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms, until a small voice broke the spell. Sophia. They pulled apart to find Romeo standing in the doorway, rubbing his eyes. Sophia was at his side in an instant, scooping him up. "Hey, sweetheart. Did we wake you?" Romeo's eyes found his father over Sophia's shoulder.
Papa.
Ricardo's expression softened in a way Sophia had never seen. He crossed to them and gently touched his son's hair. "It's okay, Figlomio. The bad lady is gone. She won't hurt you anymore." Romeo processed this, then did something that made both adults freeze. He reached out and put one small hand on his father's face and the other on Sophia's cheek, connecting them. "Safe," he whispered. It was the first word Sophia had ever heard him speak. Ricardo's eyes filled with tears. "Yes, Romeo. We're safe now, all of us." The morning after Gisella's arrest, Sophia woke to find her phone flooded with messages. Her mother's hospital had called 3 times. Panicked, she dialed back immediately. "Miss Thompson, this is Nurse Patterson from Cedars-Sinai. I wanted to let you know your mother's treatment has been fully funded through a private grant. All her medical bills, past and future, have been paid in full." Sophia's knees went weak. "What?
How?"
"I'm not at liberty to say, but the donation was substantial. Your mother is going to get the best care available." After the call ended, Sophia didn't need to guess who was responsible. She found Ricardo in the kitchen making breakfast. An oddly domestic sight that didn't match the powerful Mafia boss who'd taken down a conspiracy the night before. "You didn't have to do that," she said quietly. "Yes, I did." He didn't look up from the eggs he was scrambling for Romeo. "You risked everything for my son. Let me do this for you." Before Sophia could respond, Naomi burst into the kitchen, her face pale. "Mr. Enzo, we have a situation. The Francesco family knows about Gisella's arrest. Dante Francesco himself is calling, demanding a meeting." Ricardo's expression went cold.
"Tell him,"
he said, "if you don't meet with him today, there will be consequences." Naomi's voice shook. He mentioned Romeo by name. The temperature in the kitchen dropped. Sophia instinctively moved closer to Romeo, who was eating his carefully arranged breakfast triangles, oblivious to the danger. "Set up the meeting," Ricardo said, his voice deadly calm. "Neutral location. 1 hour. And Naomi, triple the security detail on this house. No one gets in or out without my approval." After Naomi left, Ricardo turned to Sophia. "I need you to take Romeo to the safe room. It's hidden behind the bookcase in my bedroom. You'll be protected there no matter what happens."
"No," Sophia set her jaw.
"I'm not hiding while you face them alone. Sophia, Romeo needs consistency right now. If you take him to a strange room and lock him in, he'll panic. But if I'm there, if we treat it like an adventure, he'll be okay." She met his eyes. "Besides, you said we're in this together. That means I don't abandon you when things get dangerous." Something fierce and warm flashed through Ricardo's eyes. "You're the most stubborn woman I've ever met." "I'll take that as a compliment." Sophia managed a small smile. "Now go to your meeting. We'll be safe here." Ricardo hesitated, then pulled her close and pressed a kiss to her forehead. "When I get back, we need to talk about what comes next. For the investigation for us?" He let her go before she could process that and headed for the door, issuing orders into his phone in rapid Italian. Sophia spent the next hour in Ricardo's bedroom with Romeo, showing him the hidden safe room and making it into a game. The boy was fascinated by the secret door, the way the bookcase swung open to reveal a reinforced room stocked with supplies. "Like a castle," Sophia told him, even as her heart hammered with anxiety. "We're knights guarding the treasure." Romeo examined everything with intense focus, his small hands touching the smooth walls, the emergency supplies, the communication equipment. When he seemed comfortable, Sophia let him play with some toys she'd brought while she monitored the security feeds on the room's computer. She watched Ricardo leave in a convoy of black SUVs, watched the guards fan out around the property. Everything seemed secure, but Sophia couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. 45 minutes later, her instincts proved right. The power went out. In the safe room, emergency lights kicked on immediately, but Sophia's blood went cold. This wasn't an accident. She pulled Romeo close, his small body tense as he sensed her fear. "It's okay," she whispered. even as she reached for the emergency radio. "We're safe in here." But when she tried the radio, there was only static. Someone had jammed the signal. Sophia's mind raced. The safe room was designed to withstand anything. The door was reinforced steel, the walls bulletproof. They could survive in here for days if needed. But the silence pressed in around them, and she had no way to know what was happening outside. Then she heard it. Voices in the bedroom beyond the bookcase. Multiple people speaking in Italian. Her blood turned to ice when she recognized one voice. Dante Francesco. "Search everything," he ordered. "The maid and the boy are here somewhere. Find them." Sophia clamped a hand over her mouth to keep from gasping. How had they gotten past the security? Unless they'd been planning this, waiting for Ricardo to leave the house. Romeo's breathing was getting faster, his hands starting to flap with distress. Sophia pulled him into her lap, rocking him gently, desperate to keep him quiet. Any sound could give away their location. "Boss, there's a bookcase here that seems odd," another voice said. "Doesn't match the others. Check it." Sophia heard them moving around, testing the bookcase. Her heart hammered so loud, she was sure they could hear it. She looked around the safe room desperately. There had to be another way out, some emergency exit. There, a small ventilation shaft high on the wall, big enough for a child, but not an adult. Sophia made a split-second decision. She lifted Romeo and whispered urgently in his ear. "Romeo, listen to me very carefully. We're going to play a game. I need you to crawl through that tunnel up there. Don't make any noise, okay? Just like a mouse.
Can you do that for me?"
Romeo's eyes were wide, but he nodded. Sophia had never been so grateful for his ability to focus intensely on instructions. She climbed on a storage shelf, boosted him up to the vent, and helped him squeeze through the opening. "Follow the tunnel," she whispered. "Don't stop until you reach the end. And Romeo, when you get out, press the red button on the wall." "Can you remember that?" The red button, he nodded again, his small face serious, and disappeared into the darkness. Just as the bookcase started to groan open, Sophia jumped down and grabbed the only weapon she could find, a heavy flashlight. Her hands were shaking, but she positioned herself between the door and the vent, praying they wouldn't notice where Romeo had gone. The bookcase swung open fully. Dante Francesco stepped into the safe room, flanked by two armed men. He was younger than Sophia expected, handsome in a cold way, and his smile was predatory. Well, the heroic maid. His English was perfect, barely accented. "Where's the boy?" "Safe from you," Sophia said, trying to keep her voice steady. Dante's smile widened.
"Brave."
"I can see why Ricardo is so taken with you. Yes, we know about that, too. The way he looks at you protects you. It's touching." He took a step closer, but ultimately foolish. "You're nothing but a bargaining chip now. Sophia Thompson and Ricardo Enzo will give us everything we want to get you back. He won't negotiate with you." "Oh, but he will." Dante pulled out his phone and showed her a video. Her mother in her hospital bed, surrounded by men in suits. "For you and for your mother's life, he'll give us everything." Sophia felt like she'd been punched. They'd thought of everything, covered every angle. She gripped the flashlight tighter, knowing it was useless against guns, but refusing to go down without a fight. "Now," Dante said, his voice turning cold. "Where is the boy?" "I'll never tell you. We'll see about that." He nodded to his men, and they advanced. Sophia swung the flashlight, catching one of them in the temple. He went down hard, but the other grabbed her arms, twisting them behind her back until she cried out in pain. "Last chance," Dante said. "The boy, or we start breaking bones." Sophia met his eyes, and despite her terror, her voice was steady. "Go to hell." Dante's expression darkened. He raised his hand to strike her, and the room exploded into chaos. The emergency lockdown Romeo had triggered sealed the house like a vault. Alarms blared. Steel shutters slammed down over every window. And most importantly, it sent an automatic alert to Ricardo's phone along with video feeds from every camera in the safe room. Dante's men panicked, rushing for the door, but it was already sealed. They were trapped. Sophia used the confusion to break free, ramming her elbow into her captor's stomach and dropping to the floor. Gunshots rang out, but they were firing blind in the chaos. The bullets ricocheting off reinforced walls. You stupid bitch. Dante grabbed Sophia by her hair, yanking her head back, his gun pressed to her temple. You've killed us all. No, came a cold voice from the doorway. Just you. Ricardo stood in the entrance, surrounded by his men, his gun trained on Dante's head. His face was absolutely murderous, his eyes blazing with a fury Sophia had never seen. Let her go, he said quietly, each word precisely controlled. Now you're bluffing, but Dante's voice wavered. You won't risk shooting her. I won't miss. Ricardo's aim never wavered. But my sniper on the roof definitely won't. He has a clean shot through the window you opened. Your men are already down. Dante's eyes darted to his men, who had indeed slumped to the ground, taken out by Ricardo's team. His hand trembled on his gun. It's over, Dante, Ricardo said. Let her go, and maybe you live long enough to see a trial. If I'm going down, Dante's finger tightened on the trigger. Sophia drove her elbow backward with all her strength, hitting Dante's solar plexus. His gun went off, the bullet going wild, and Ricardo moved like lightning. He was on Dante in a second, his fist connecting with the man's jaw with a sickening crack. Dante went down, and Ricardo's men swarmed in, securing him. But Ricardo only had eyes for Sophia. He pulled her into his arms, his hands frantically checking her for injuries. Are you hurt?
Did they?
I'm okay. Sophia clung to him, her composure finally breaking. I'm okay, but Romeo, he's in the vents. I sent him through. I've got him. Another of Ricardo's men appeared, carrying a frightened but unharmed Romeo. He triggered the lockdown like a champ. Sophia broke free from Ricardo and rushed to Romeo, who immediately wrapped his arms and legs around her like a koala. She held him tight, tears streaming down her face. You did so good, sweetie. So good. You're so brave. Ricardo's hand came to rest on both of them, his touch gentle despite the violence still humming through him. Thank you, he whispered to Sophia for protecting him, for being brave enough to save him. Always, Sophia whispered back. I'll always protect him. And I'll always protect you. Ricardo's voice was fierce. Both of you. This I swear. The aftermath was controlled chaos. FBI agents flooded the mansion to arrest Dante Francesco and his men. Ricardo's lawyers appeared within an hour, ensuring everything was documented properly. Sophia gave her statement 3 times, always with Ricardo at her side, his hand never leaving hers. Through it all, Romeo clung to Sophia, his small body trembling occasionally, but his meltdowns less severe than she'd feared. The bond they'd formed, the trust she'd built, helped him weather the trauma better than anyone expected. It was nearly dawn when they finally had the house to themselves again. Sophia sat in Ricardo's office, exhausted and wired at the same time, watching him pace as he talked on the phone in Italian. When he finally ended the call, he sat down heavily in the chair beside her. The FBI is crediting you with breaking up one of the largest organized crime conspiracies in California history, he said quietly. They want you to testify. I will. Whatever it takes to make sure they all go away forever. Sophia looked at him. Your mother's treatment is secure. I've set up a trust fund that will cover all her medical expenses for life, regardless of what happens to me or my businesses. No one can touch it. He met her eyes. You and your mother are protected, Sophia. Always. You don't have to. Stop. Ricardo reached for her hand. Stop saying I don't have to. I want to. You've given me and Romeo something I thought we'd never have. A chance at a real family, at happiness. Let me do this. Sophia's eyes filled with tears. Ricardo, I need to tell you something. He shifted to face her fully. The pretending to be blind. It wasn't just about testing Gisela. It was about testing everyone around me. I needed to know who I could trust with Romeo, who would protect him, care for him, love him for who he is and not what he represents. And I found you. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. I watched you with him. Sophia, the way you learned his needs, respected his boundaries, celebrated his victories. You see him as perfect, not broken. You protect him without smothering him. His voice grew rough. You love him the way I do, completely, unconditionally. Of course I do. Sophia's tears spilled over. He's an amazing child. How could I not love him? That's exactly it. Most people see his autism first. You see Romeo first. Ricardo leaned closer. And somewhere along the way, I started seeing you too, Sophia. Not as an employee, not as a temporary solution, but as someone I couldn't imagine living without. Sophia's heart hammered in her chest. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm falling in love with you. The words hung in the air, simple and devastating. I know the timing is terrible. I know you've been through trauma because of me and my world. I know I have no right to ask you for anything more than you've already given, but I need you to know how I feel. Sophia stared at him, her mind reeling. A week ago, she was just a maid trying to survive. Now she was sitting in a mansion with a mafia boss confessing his love, having just survived a kidnapping attempt and helped take down a criminal conspiracy. It was insane, impossible, dangerous, and yet I'm falling in love with you, too, she whispered. I don't know when it started. Maybe when I saw how much you love Romeo. Maybe when you trusted me enough to be vulnerable, but somewhere along the way, you became more than my employer. You became everything. Ricardo's expression transformed, hope and relief and joy mixing together. He cupped her face gently. I will spend every day proving I'm worthy of that trust. I will protect you, provide for you, cherish you, but I will never cage you, Sophia. If you want to leave, if this life is too much, I will make sure you and your mother are taken care of. No strings attached. I don't want to leave. Sophia leaned into his touch.
I want to stay.
I want to help raise Romeo. I want to build something real with you. Even if it's dangerous, even if it's crazy. It will be both those things, Ricardo said seriously. My world is not safe or simple. There will always be threats, always be people who try to use you to get to me. I can't promise you a normal life. I don't want normal. Sophia smiled through her tears. Normal was working 3 jobs and still drowning. Normal was watching my mother suffer because I couldn't afford her treatment. Normal was being invisible and powerless. You've shown me something better. A chance to matter. To protect someone who needs me. To love someone who sees me as I am. Ricardo pulled her close, resting his forehead against hers. Then stay. Be with us. Let me love you the way you deserve. Yes, Sophia whispered. Yes to all of it. When he kissed her, it was gentle and fierce at the same time, a promise and a claiming. Sophia melted into him, letting herself feel safe for the first time in longer than she could remember. A small sound made them break apart. Romeo stood in the doorway, his favorite blanket clutched in his hands, his eyes moving between them. Hey, sweetheart. Sophia held out her arms, and Romeo came to them without hesitation. She pulled him into her lap, and Ricardo wrapped his arms around both of them. Is Sophia staying? Romeo asked, his voice clear despite being rarely used. Ricardo looked at Sophia, his eyes asking the question again. She nodded. Yes, Figlomo, Ricardo said softly. Sophia is staying forever, if she'll have us. Good. Romeo burrowed between them. I love Sophia. Sophia's heart shattered and reformed in that moment. I love you too, Romeo. So much. We're a family now, Ricardo said, his voice thick with emotion. The 3 of us. Our own family. Romeo nodded against Sophia's chest. And for the first time since she'd met him, he was completely still. Not rocking, not flapping his hands, just resting peacefully in the arms of the people who loved him most. As dawn broke over Los Angeles, Sophia Thompson, former maid, current guardian angel, future, something more, held her new family close and knew she'd finally found where she belonged. Not in a mansion or a title or a bank account, but in the hearts of a broken boy who needed her protection and a dangerous man who needed her love, and that was worth more than all the money in the world. 2 years later, Sophia stood in the garden of the Enzo mansion. Know their mansion now, watching Romeo play with his therapy dog in the sunshine. At 7 years old, He'd made incredible progress. He spoke in full sentences now, went to a specialized school where his talents were nurtured, and had even made a few friends. He still had hard days, still needed his routines and his safe spaces, but he was thriving in a way no one had thought possible. Thinking deep thoughts. Ricardo's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. Sophia leaned back into him, her left hand coming up to rest on his chest, the diamond on her ring finger, their engagement ring chosen together, no secrets or lies, caught the sunlight. Just thinking about how much has changed, she said softly. Good changes, I hope. The best changes. Sophia turned at his arms. My mother's in remission. Romeo is happy and safe. Gisela and Dante are in prison for the next 20 years. The Francesco family's operation has been dismantled, and I get to wake up every day with you. I'm the lucky one, Ricardo murmured, kissing her forehead. You gave me everything, Sophia. A son who trusts again. A home that feels like home. A love I never thought I'd deserve. You deserve all of it. Sophia cupped his face. You're a good man, Ricardo. Even if you do occasionally make people who threaten your family disappear into the night, I have no idea what you're talking about, but his eyes sparkled with mischief. Sure you don't. Sophia laughed, then sobered. Have you heard from the adoption lawyer?
Yes.
Ricardo's smile grew soft. The paperwork should be finalized next month. Romeo wants it to be official before the wedding. He wants to make sure I can't escape, Sophia joked. But her eyes were misty. Can you blame him? He knows a good thing when he sees it. Ricardo pulled her closer. We both do. Sophia, Papa, watch. Romeo called from across the garden. He taught his dog a new trick, and his face glowed with pride as the animal performed perfectly. That's amazing, sweetie, Sophia called back. The best, Ricardo added. They stood there wrapped in each other's arms, watching the boy they both loved play in the sunshine. Sophia thought about the desperate woman who'd taken a job as a maid 2 years ago, never imagining it would lead to this, to love, to family, to a life beyond her wildest dreams. She'd come to the Enzo mansion expecting to scrub floors and earn a paycheck. Instead, she'd found everything that mattered. And as Ricardo kissed her temple and Romeo's laughter rang through the air, Sophia knew that every risk, every moment of fear, every dangerous choice had been worth it. Because this love, this family, this life was what she'd been fighting for all along. Tomo, Ricardo whispered in her ear. Sophia smiled, recognizing the Italian she'd learned just for him. I love you too. Always. Always, he agreed. And in that perfect moment, surrounded by love and sunshine and the sound of a happy child's laughter, Sophia Thompson knew she was finally truly home. This story has reached its end. Thank you all for following this story. If you enjoyed it, please write in the comments where you're watching from. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video as your support is important for me to continue creating content. New stories are coming soon. Until next time.